Welcome to this Thursday edition of the Angela Ray Show. I hope that you all have had a great day. One more day until the weekend. I don't know what that means for you. If you are still quarantined and social distancing at home, if you are working or if you are taking some of this time to get out, do some vacationing and spending time with family and friends. Whenever you get on the broadcast, do me a favor, chime into the comments. Let me know where you are watching from tonight. And if you are catching our interview tonight on the replay, thanks so much for checking it out. We are winding down this week-long series entitled Behind the Scenes, where I've had a week-long conversation with various professionals in the entertainment industry who do not work in front of the camera. We started off on Monday night with hair designer Joyce Gillard, and we've talked to producers and film directors. And tonight, we get an opportunity to talk to a writer. So again, whenever you get on the broadcast, make sure you go ahead and chime in the comments. Let me know where you're watching from tonight. I'm going to give you a moment or two to get on. Then we're going to get started with our Ray of Motivation moment for this Throwback Thursday, the day before Juneteenth. So we're going to go ahead and get started with tonight's broadcast with our Ray of Motivation moment. And for this Thursday edition of the Ray of Motivation moment, I just want to ask, how are you jumping? How are you jumping? There are so many songs about jumping. You know, Chris Cross had a song talking about jump, jump, of course. What was the group? It was House of Pain, Jump Around. Aretha Franklin jumped to it. And of course, oftentimes, especially lately, I've heard Steve Harvey talking about, are you ready to jump? You got to jump. That's what you have to do. My question, are you jumping the right way? Particularly in this time of social media where so many more people are online, so many more people are sharing information, becoming their own journalists, if you will, with a camera phone and with a social media account. What I have observed, especially as of late, sometimes we're jumping to conclusions far more quickly than we should be, instead of jumping at some of the opportunities to learn, to discover, to make connections, and to listen to one another. So, for this Ray of Motivation moment, just want to ask you, how are you jumping? And that's our Ray of Motivation moment for this Thursday evening. Well, tonight, as I mentioned just a little while ago, we have our first writer on the show for this series entitled Behind the Scenes, ReShonda Tate Billingsley. She is an NAACP award winning author. She's written more than 40 books. She's actually had some of her work published in anthologies. She was inducted into the Arkansas Black Hall of Fame, and she's had some of her works optioned for film. So please help me welcome ReShonda. ReShonda, thank you so much for being on the Angela Ray Show tonight.
Thank you for having me.
So, ReShonda, how have you been spending this time of social distancing? You're a writer. Has this been a great time for you to have some extra time to get some of those stories out?
No, I am. I actually work from home, but when I'm being made to work from home, it's driving me crazy. So I had quarantine fever. I did, do my own braids. So I'm not ready to get out, but I'm ready to get out. I know
Hmm.
things are open back up, but I'm not ready to venture out and go get my nails and hair done and all of that. But I have been creating, but I'm always creating.
Okay. Any great projects linked to the quarantine? Somebody who, I don't know, two people had on a mask at the grocery store, they locked eyes and now they want to get married. Anything inspired by this time?
Yeah, no,
I
one
know
of the
that sounded horrible.
it's not. One of the things, so I get that a lot. We didn't, just because it's such a trying time for people. My business partner and I were talking about it, and then we were like, nobody wants to read about the quarantine. Once we're out of this, we want to go back to normal. So no, all it did was it allowed me time to just kind of catch up on a lot of projects.
Okay. So I mentioned that you've written over 40 books, and I think you have something getting ready to come out. What's your total right now?
51. My 51st book
Ooh.
came out on May 27th.
Okay. Wow. And so what do you attribute to your longevity in the industry?
Well, it's because I write a lot. So I have regular jobs. I'm a newspaper editor here in Houston. I also am a communications consultant for Texas Southern University. And so I actually go in there 3 days a week. And then I do ghostwriting and editing, and I have a publishing company. So I'm very, very busy. But I believe every minute you spend talking about what you don't have time to do can be spent doing it. And so that's what I do. I just find a way to utilize all my spare time. So on my
Wow.
drive into work, I may dictate the chapter for my next book. I'm just utilizing all those spare moments.
Wow. That is amazing. Both writing as well as working outside of the home, doing multiple things. And you mentioned that you are the editor of a newspaper. Have you worked in front of the camera in terms of journalism?
I did. I was a television news reporter and anchor for 20 years.
Oh, so is that how it was so easy for you to kind of transition into doing a little bit of acting in some of the projects that you've optioned?
Yeah, acting was actually my first love, and my mother
Okay.
just quickly killed that dream and said, you need to go get you a real job. And so I ended up going into television and then quit that to write anyway. And so, but yeah, that was my first love. But I am also, again, one of the things that I believe is if you can't get in through the front door, you find another way in. And so I knew that I wanted to act, but I had a family. I did want to have that steady income. So I didn't go in through the front door. I figured I'd write something, figure out how to get it produced, and then, have a role in that.
Okay. And so you had I remember seeing Let the Church Say Amen. I can't remember what network it was on. Maybe it was a BET. That
Mhm.
because there were two movies, like two very prominent African American movies that were on that night. It was like
Yeah,
maybe one on BET and one on TV One.
correct.
And so I remember getting a chance to check you out. How did that relationship develop for you to be able to get your work optioned?
So I initially had I go back to it stemmed from being nice, and I know this sounds like a cliche, but I was at a book signing. A young woman came up to me. She had on a McDonald's uniform. She said, "I'd love to buy a copy of your book, but you see where I work. I don't have any money. I don't get paid till next week." So I bought the book for her. She read it. She loved it. She gave it to her sister to read, and her sister worked in an airport bookstore in Phoenix. Well, one day Juanita Bynum was coming through that airport bookstore and asked for a suggestion. And she said, "You should read this book by ReShonda Tate Billingsley," because she was so nice to my sister. And Juanita said, "I don't read fiction." Well, she convinced Juanita to buy the book. Juanita bought it, read it on the plane, tried to get in touch with me. I didn't reply because I thought it was spam, her emailing me. But she got in touch with my editors. And long story short, she asked for my permission to take the book to Hollywood. And so that's how I got on their radar. And I initially signed a 7-film deal with Code Black Entertainment. That, as options go, things don't always come to fruition. So that fell off. And along the way, Regina King came on board directing. And so when it fell off with Code Black Entertainment, Regina picked the mantle up and just kept running with it.
Wow. That is an amazing story. I just had someone earlier this week talking about getting her start in entertainment, and hers started from starting up a conversation with a chauffeur. So
Yes,
it is amazing how when you put good energy out there, how it comes back to you.
yes,
Now, you are a member of a sorority.
yes.
How has your organization of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated impacted your career?
They helped build me because when I started out going to conventions, going to regional conferences, and I would set up and sell. And my sorority sisters were so supportive. So they would buy the book and they would tell other people about it. But one of the things that was fascinating, my sorors were completely supportive, as were other Greeks. I do a lot of events with Delta Sigma Theta. They support me and show me so much love, and the other sororities as well. So I am, really blessed to have the support from all of the Greek organizations, and including my own.
Well, that's great. I mean, Victoria Christopher Murray, your girl, my soror. I've seen you all out together, doing your signings, and she and I have been on the road together for our Delta Authors on Tour. And I think the first time I met you was actually at our national convention during Centennial, when you were signing books with some of the Delta authors. So you're right. People across the board have been supportive. It's just great to see an African-American female writer doing her thing. And I think that is what so many people, regardless of their organizations, gravitate towards.
Yes, definitely.
So your latest book, you said it came out in May of this year. Tell us what that book is about.
It came out May 27th, and it is called The Stolen Daughter. And it is about a woman. The title speaks for itself. It's just her and her mom. They grew up poor, and her mother now has dementia. And so she finds out that she was a stolen daughter. And so how do you
Wow.
reconcile that, especially when your biological parents are very, very wealthy, and they want you to cut ties with your mother, the woman who stole you? So can you leave this woman that raised you and now has dementia? So she's faced with that challenge, but it's called The Stolen Daughter.
Wow. Okay. Was that based or inspired by true events, or just completely fiction?
So it was fictional, but it now, I started it years ago, but now it does in some ways mirror the Kamaya Mobley story. And so, but in my story, I started it a while ago. It was put on hold by my publisher. But I really do try and take real life issues and then fictionalize them. That one just was a coincidence with Kamaya's story.
Okay. Now, I read somewhere where you, as a writer, have been called the female Tyler Perry. How did you earn that name?
Probably because all the books I write.
Okay.
I'm churning them out. I write for adults and teens. And one of the things with, I'm honored by the comparison with Tyler in terms of, I just admire his hustle. And I do. I am a hustler. I believe in trying to find a way to achieve my dreams, even when they won't open the door for you. I believe in finding a way to make it happen. And so a lot of my books, especially my earlier books, were faith-based. So I think that's where that comparison came in. I am a Christian who writes fiction. I don't write Christian fiction because I write reality. And in the real world, people curse a little bit. The crackheads don't say pass the pipe, gosh darn it. So I'm writing reality.
You're right about that. That is not how they talk. So back in 2012, you won an NAACP Image Award. What was it like to get that recognition from an organization like the NAACP?
It was both the best and the worst day of my life.
Uh-oh.
So
You gotta explain that one.
No, I was so excited to be nominated in the first place. And then I wanted to walk the red carpet, even though no one had any idea who I was. But I kept getting bumped for celebrities that were coming through. And so the real celebrities would come through. But I did get my moment on the carpet. Loved it. I got into the auditorium about 3:13. It started at 3 o'clock. I got in about 3:13 and waited through the whole event. And Victoria actually texted me close to the end and said, "Where are you?" And I said, "I'm sitting in the theater." I'm texting her back, and she said, "You won." And I said, "No, they haven't got to our section yet." And then they said, "Thank you for coming." And they wrapped up. And a friend of mine was a couple of rows up, and he looked back and he said, "They called your name first. You were not here." And I wanted to die. I was on the red carpet. I hadn't made it in. I was one of the ones right off the top. So I missed my opportunity to accept my award.
Wow. Okay.
So I sat through the whole. It actually wasn't over because I had to sit through about another hour fighting back tears. Like I was devastated. But yeah, it was horrible to miss it. But I'm honored because it was a lot of nominations. I mean, a lot of people up for the award, and so to win was just a phenomenal experience.
Wow. And have you been nominated again since that time?
I've been nominated a total of 3 times.
Okay. All right. I talked to Victoria. I actually interviewed her a few weeks ago. And one of the things she was talking about jokingly, because she had been nominated so many times, she's like, I'm the Susan Lucci of the NAACP Image Awards. But that was not your case.
Right. And so we were up the year she won. We were up together. She was up for Stand Your Ground, and I was up for Mama's Boy. And she had been nominated so many times, she just blew it off. And so when she won, I think I was more excited for her winning than she was. She was like, "Oh wow," but she did it. She deserved it. I really, and I was happy to see her make that achievement.
So your latest book came out in May. You've had some films option. Do you have something else coming up that we can look forward to seeing on the screen?
I do. Well, we're currently working on some things. It's funny because I have some projects in development, and one of them has, with everything going on, the one that I was nominated with Victoria, Mama's Boy, has been pushed up to the forefront because it does deal with the whole racism and police shooting a young black man. So it deals with all of that. So they're pushing that to the forefront. I don't know which one will be developed first. I'm just
Mhm.
proud to be back in the game because I had 2 books that have already been made into movies.
Okay. Now we have a question from one of our very loyal viewers, Edwin. Can you see that question on the screen?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. And so moving to digital media and content, I'm just happy people are still reading, but I would be remiss to say that it didn't affect us. The move away from just content in general. We used to have so many bookstores out there. When they started closing down, it affected us as writers. I was with Gallery Books for years, Simon and Schuster. That's who I started with, and it got to a point where I was the only African American author there. Everybody else was gone. And it's not because I'm the best, it was because they had just let everybody else go. And that was because bookstores were closing. When Borders closed, Borders was about
Oh
34% of
yeah.
my sales. When
Mm.
Borders closed, those books were gone. So there's nowhere to pick that up. Then people start getting more into digital content. They start getting more into Facebook, social media, and you didn't have people reading as much. So yes, it definitely hurt the industry overall. I am happy to say though that I see a return, a resurgence of reading. Yes, but we still get paid on the digital content, but it hurt in terms of the bookstores closing.
Definitely. So what's next for you? Are you looking to do something that you haven't done before?
Yeah, so I actually am trying to get into the production side of doing movies. I still love writing. I will continue to do that. I have a book that I actually wrote with Victoria called If Only for One Night. And she and our company is Brown Girls Entertainment. And we are working to bring that to film. So we're hopeful that will be our first project that we're able to produce. So that's what I want to do next, is to get into producing films.
Okay. So just if you had your dream cast, you know, who are a couple of people who you would love to have in that project?
That's a hard one, and let me tell you why. I when I initially set up, okay, here's who I'd love to play in my book, in my movie, and then they came and they told me Layla Rashawn would be in Let the Church Say Amen. And Layla Rashawn, the first thing I said is Sunshine. Sunshine from Harlem Night is going to play the pastor's wife. And she was phenomenal. She was absolutely wonderful. And so I learned then that a good actor can take on any role. And so I just don't see myself saying, okay, this person would be the one to kill it, because you might have an unknown, or you might have an up and coming actor who can kill it. Now, if you say who would I love to just work with, just because, of
Mhm.
course, Denzel and Omari Hardwick. So
Definitely. That both of them are definitely amazing.
yeah.
So, as we get ready to start wrapping up, what advice would you have for someone who's looking to get into entertainment and maybe they have done like you? They started with something different and they want to figure out how can they transition into getting work behind the scenes.
It again, you have to find ways in. If you can't get in through just normal contacts, then I would definitely say try to go to conferences once we resume conferences, and just try to make contacts. But more than anything, you're in an era where you can produce your own content and have the people come to you. There are so many avenues that are looking for content. So if you write and produce on your own, then you're a leg up as it is. So if you can say to somebody, not only do I have content, but I have an audience that I built myself on YouTube or wherever, then the studios are more likely to take a look at you.
Okay. Definitely. And ReShonda, can you, I want you to yeah, because
I was dying. You know, I'm a journalist, so I was dying here. That sun started setting.
I was like, wait a minute, we can't see her lovely
Oh
face.
my
We can't
God,
see
I
her
was
lovely
dying.
face.
I didn't want to mess up the live broadcast, but I was like, this is out of order. Okay.
It is okay. It is okay. So now thinking about all that you've accomplished, looking into the future and wanting to get into producing and producing some of your own work, how long do you think it will take you to go from where you are now to getting that done? Do you see that happening soon, particularly in this era of Black Lives Matter and a sudden need and hunger for Black content?
Oh yes, definitely. It's funny because I've been since The Secret She Kept came out, I've kind of been in limbo trying to get something. And when I tell you, I've gotten in the last 3 weeks more contacts than I have in the last 3 years from people saying, "Okay,
Wow.
what do you have? We want to produce something." So yeah, I definitely see something happening very soon.
And have you seen an uptick in your sales of your books? Because I have a friend, I'm self-published, but I have a friend who's traditionally published who tried to take a break from social media just because of some of the negativity. And all of a sudden she called me and she was like, girl, like all of a sudden my books are just selling and I'm not doing anything differently.
Yeah. So I don't know because I'm with the mainstream publisher, so they don't report our sales. I can tell you that there is interest outside of just African Americans. So there are a lot of white people and Hispanic people that are saying, okay, I'm paying attention now. And so let me see what they have. Let me read a Black book so I can feel like I'm doing something. And I appreciate that. I did a radio show once with a white guy, very conservative white radio host, and he just happened to have me on, and he asked, could he read my book? He had the secret she kept. He said, "Can I read this?" And I said, "Can you read?" And he kind of laughed. And I said, "If you can read, you can read my book." And he said, "Well, it has a Black woman on the cover, so I didn't think that this was something that I could relate to." And he read the book and had me back on because he loved it. And we had a great conversation about it. But so often we can read their stuff, but they can't read ours. Or they feel like it's something that they can't relate to when our stories are just as universal. So I'm finding that now more people are taking a chance in reading those universal stories.
Yes, my same girlfriend that I was just talking to, she shared that I guess she was doing a book signing recently, and there was a white lady. She bought a book. She had a young daughter, and she does middle grade literature, and she bought this book, and she was looking at her daughter, saying, "Well, who can we give this to?" And her daughter said, "I want to read it." And it
Yep.
was almost like the mom had not even occurred to her that this is a middle grade book. This is the age range of my child. I could buy this book for her. She was trying to figure out who she could give the book to. So it's
Right.
interesting that we're at that turning point
Hmm.
in our culture. So, final thoughts. Anything else that you would like to share about your journey, um, about where you're going, and what people can do to support?
One of the things that I just always encourage people, and this is for all of us authors, is to pass the word, not the book. We have a lot of people that will come up and say, "Oh, I'm your biggest fan. I bought your last book and I gave it to 32 of my friends," and I'm looking at them like I made $1. And so that's what speaks in publishing. So it's really a matter of not only saying, "Hey, I want to support you," but I also want to tell other people, because that's how we have longevity, is through that word of mouth and what I call legs, giving our books legs. So that's the biggest way that you can support, is to continue to buy our books and to support independent and Black bookstores. A lot of times we'll go, okay, I'm just going to get it from Amazon because it's $2 cheaper on Amazon. And meanwhile, that $2 can make the difference with a black bookstore that's going out of business. So if at all possible, I encourage people to order from independent and black owned bookstores.
Okay. And you have one more question before we wrap up.
What book and or author inspired you or changed your life? It has to be Maya Angelou. I Know Why the Cage Bird Sings. I
Mm.
am originally from Arkansas as well, and I remember as a little girl reading that book and just being just enamored. I mean, I would just read it one summer and I read it back to back like 3 times, and my cousins were like, "What is wrong with you?" And I just loved her words. I loved the story, and I said, "I want to do this."
Well, that is a great way to end tonight's broadcast because, oh gosh, Maya is just so inspirational for so
Yeah.
many reasons. That book, her poetry, she was a director, she was an actor. She was just so so influential, so
Right.
impactful, definitely.
Absolutely.
Well, ReShonda Tate Billingsley, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the Angela Ray Show tonight. And I think we had your Facebook page. It was,
Yeah.
yeah, scrolling at the bottom of the screen. So if you'd like to connect with ReShonda so that you know what's coming up next, how you can support when she may be out in the real world, when it's safe to do so again, signing books, you can keep up with her there.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me. I enjoyed talking with you.
Thank you, ReShonda. Have a great evening.
All right, you too. Bye bye.
All right. Bye bye. Well, that's it for tonight's episode of the Angela Ray Show. As always, I would like to remind you of Ray of Motivation number 54. Cleaning a mirror will not change the person who is reflected in it. Until next time, I encourage you to go out and be the change. Have a great evening.